This is Talking Mule Deer with your hosts Steve Belinda and Jodi Stemler. Talking Mule Deer takes you on a journey to learn more about the Mule Deer Foundation, mule deer and black-tailed deer biology and management, tips and tactics for hunting, conservation issues, and even features some of our corporate and celebrity partners. Now, let's start talking mule deer.
Hey, this is Jodi Stemler, and we're back for another episode of Talking Mule Deer, but we are missing Steve Belinda on this episode. Steve is actually out working on a habitat project out in Wyoming. We've got a new staff person out there, so a little too remote to be able to get on a podcast this morning, so we've got our own outreach coordinator, JJ Hinton, on board. JJ, welcome as to your first co-host of Talking Mule Deer.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm sorry y'all drew the short straw and got stuck with me, but I'll do my best to fill those gigantic shoes. I like to call them clown shoes that Steve likes to wear. So,
well, and JJ's always been a part of this since he's come on board because he helps edit the podcast now for us and do a lot. So it's only fair that you're behind the mic for a little bit. Tell us about our guest today, JJ.
Hey, we're excited. So we've got Nosler Ammunition and Firearms, Nosler Inc. Joining us, and from Nosler, we've got John Nosler. John, you are the president and our COO, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yep.
Welcome,
Awesome.
John. So happy to have you on board, and thank you so much for supporting the Mule Deer Foundation. Tell us a little bit about your company and how it got its roots.
Yeah, you bet. So it's a super long story, but I'm going to give you the real condensed version. My grandfather was a truck driver, and his passion was hunting. And so, he would run produce during the war, and so he was running produce back and forth, and he would go to British Columbia and go hunting. And he was up there one year, and this was like in 1946, and he went on a hunt, and the moose came out of this mud bath, just covered, caked in mud, and he was shooting a 300 H&H Magnum, and at the time that was the most powerful Magnum. And the original one just said 300 Magnum on it, and so he's shooting these bullets, and the bullet wouldn't go into the moose, and he basically just kept hitting this moose over and over and over again. He's driving back, and at the time he lived in Ashland, Oregon, and he's driving back, and he's just disappointed and upset. And as hunters, we hate that, right? You want it to go perfect. You never want them to suffer. You want it. We respect the animals too much. He was beside himself, but as a truck driver, he kept thinking, "There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way." Well, when you hit the brakes on a truck, your trailer always pushes forward, right? And so he's thinking, what if I had a bullet that had a trailer in the front end, or an engine pulling and trailer in the back end, the trailer pushes through, and then you get the penetration. He takes an old axle off one of his old trucks, makes a lathe, hand makes some bullets, goes back to British Columbia the following year. They all have one-shot kills. They're all super happy. My grandma says, "Listen, that's great. I'm happy for you, but you own a trucking company that we run produce. You're not a bullet manufacturer."
Right.
Well, I kind of want to be. Well, you can't be both. You got to do one or the other. Fortunately for me and my family, he chose bullet manufacturing. He tried to sell his idea to everybody else because he just didn't really know how to do it in mass production. He went and stayed at Washington, D.C. for a long time at the patent office, learned how to create his own patent.
Wow.
This is in the 40s. Wow. And then he comes back, has his patent, super excited. Everybody said, it was the Dear John letters, thanks, but no thanks. You've got a great idea, but it's not going to work. And I've got a couple of them. After he passed away, I inherited his den. He kept every one of those rejection letters.
Oh, wow. Motivation.
It was the giant chip on his shoulder. And it was great because I could look at it and say, that's the American entrepreneur spirit, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm going to make this happen. So fast forward, he got some business partners, started making bullets, was getting like great notoriety from like Jack O'Connor, Elmer Keith, and they were writing back and forth to him. And he just got inspired to keep doing it. And, fast forward to today, we went from bullet manufacturers to brass manufacturers to ammo manufacturers to firearms manufacturer. and he'd be pretty proud of where we've come for sure.
I'd imagine. When did some of that branching off and expansion of your product line begin?
So, me growing up, we were bullets, and we were the bullet man. We always kind of joked in our family, we were the Intel inside. Remember those old Intel commercials for all the computers? So we made bullets for everybody. Our own brand. Federal, Winchester, Remington, Norma, Weatherby. We made them for everybody. But I was getting out of college, so it was around 2000, and my dad and I we were on a hunt in Northwest Territories, and 9/11, right on 9/11, and we got stuck. Obviously, we didn't know what was happening with the world, and we just started kind of talking about the future of the company and of the brand and where we wanted it to be. I mean, we all know, right? Sitting around a campfire, you get a lot done. You can solve the world's problems. Yeah. And so we basically kind of came up with some concepts, but I mean, they were all rough. We finally get home, 9/11 had happened, the world shut down, and we watched a lot of our business go away and a lot of our market go away because, consumers were scared. We didn't know what we were doing. And, there was a lot of layoffs nationwide. There was the economy, it was bad. Dad and I said, we never want to be in that position again. So how do we do this? Well, we go back to the campfire conversations. And one of them was branching into our own case line manufacturing, our own ammunition, our own firearms. And, we talked to people and they're like, okay, yeah, you make bullets. Don't get ahead of yourselves, guys. And we would go to SHOT Show the next year, and we're walking around and we're looking at just kind of some ideas, and it hit us. Like, it was like the same time, when you have those light bulb moments, and we said, oh my gosh, we need to branch out. Let's do it. Let's just do it. We don't care what everybody else says. Just like my grandfather didn't care when everybody said it's not going to work. And it kind of dawned on us, like, that's a great idea. My father had written a business plan in 1986 for ammunition. And so we dusted that off, and I'm looking at it going, you had it then, right? We didn't have to wait so long. He goes, yeah, we actually had to. We didn't. we weren't well known.
Right time.
Yeah. And so, so 2003, 2004, we just kept branching out. And then, by 2010, we had started getting a full line, and, we just kept growing from there. And I think we acquired a couple companies from 2012 to 13, kept growing. We built a new factory in Redmond with the idea. We bought 60 acres up there, and we're going to have a campus. And that was the idea of, we were going to have a firearms building. We were going to have a brass manufacturing, a CNC operation building, bullet manufacturing, like a campus. And it all, like I said, it all started from that hunt, sitting around a campfire thinking the world was ending, because 9/11, we're not getting picked up, and what's happening.
Yeah.
We get home and realize that we're not that far from the tree, with Grandpa, and don't take no for an answer.
That's pretty impressive, and it also it does speak to the volumes to what can be accomplished around a campfire. We need to take a break, and I think what I'd like to do when we get back from hearing from our supporters is to transition to hear a little bit more specifically about the ammunition. And I know this is JJ's wheelhouse, so I'm going to let him ask some of those questions, because I know you talked a little bit about what your grandfather's idea was, but you guys have been very innovative in your ballistics and in your bullet manufacturing. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that. Let's hear from our supporters, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Elk, sheep, big old muleys. Not a problem for the 27 Nosler. We packed it with more downrange punch than the 300 Win Mag. We designed it to be flatter shooting than the 6.5 PRC. The 27 Nosler is everything you've heard, all that you've asked for, and plenty more. So enough talking. Check out the numbers for yourself and see what makes the 27 Nosler such a beast at nosler.com.
If you're buying or selling a trophy hunting or fishing property in the Western U.S., our friends at St. James Sporting Properties should be your go-to resource. St. James Sporting Properties is more than an elite group of professional ranch brokers. They're also passionate about chasing monster mule deer, highly successful big game hunters, and avid outdoorsmen. When you combine their passion and expertise in the outdoors with their industry-leading marketing program, you're guaranteed to have a first-class experience. For more information, go to the Supporting Partners page on muledeer.org or give St. James Sporting Properties a call today to buy or sell your dream sporting property.
All right, hey, we're back, and we were just hearing about the history of Nosler from John Nosler himself. And before we got into the break, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your ammunition and what makes it different. So let us know. Tell us what you got.
Yeah, you bet. So when we started ammo, I was talking about 2004, 2005, kind of growing into it. We wanted to start with like custom hand loads because we were really good at that. I mean, we load bullets all day long and shoot them because for testing, and we knew what recipes work. We've done multiple reloading manuals for the consumers, and we said let's use the best recipes. Well, that kind of developed and kept getting bigger and bigger, and then we bought, like I said, we bought a company that all of a sudden we're making our own cartridge cases, and then it turned into what's next. And for ammo, it's a giant risk. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, there's a lot of barriers to entry to get into ammo. Everybody wants to be an ammo company, and they try that. Well, this equipment is hard to get. It's super expensive. A lot of it's World War II. It's just
absolutely.
refurbished, and we kept developing products, and kind of like I alluded to, we were selling to a lot of other companies in OEM configurations, a lot of our projectiles, and a lot of it didn't fit their brands, what we wanted to do. And so we said, well, shoot, let's go for it. Let's put it in our brand or create a new brand within our brand and start launching these projectiles in our own loaded ammunition. And it just kept taking off. Then we got this wild hair that actually started right before my grandfather died. He kept talking about his dream would be to have a Nosler cartridge. And I said, again, timing is everything. And we started talking about it, kicked around some ideas. Nothing really came of it. And one day we were hunting in Texas, and campfire conversation about what the world needs. And what came out of that ended up being the 26 Nosler. And that was our first intro into cartridge manufacture, our own cartridge. And it took off. I mean, it was unbelievable. What else can we do with this? And, Mike Lake, our senior leader of engineering and research development, he had the foresight to come out and say, hey, there's going to be a lot of wildcats made from this 26. Why don't we make all of them right now so we kind of standardize them just to give us flexibility? Well, the 28 ended up being the one. I think that was the next introduction. And ever since that day, I think our trajectory went from really good to great. And we've been excited, and it's been forcing us to, when you have a cartridge like this, it's like my grandfather, the 300 H&H. It forces you to make better bullets because the bullets can't handle the technology that's coming out in the firearms. So you end up making better, longer range projectiles that handle expansion velocities from, 3,800 feet a second to like 1,200 feet a second. And it just makes you better. And so everybody kind of thrives. We keep firearms at kind of the tip of the spear, if you were to look at it, or top of the pyramid, and it flows down into bullet development, ammunition development, cartridge case development. And it's allowing us with our own cartridges to make our bullets, I think, better. Now our partners are looking at, they're loading 28 Nosler, and it's like one of the most proud moments I can have is I look and I see a box of Federal ammunition or Hornady ammunition that has 28 Nosler, and it's like, we did it. That's what we wanted to do. So it all kind of stemmed from the same product launch, that 1 year of cartridge cases, some custom firearms, and a little bit of hand loaded ammo, to now we're creating cartridges and we're creating new projectiles, and we're helping our partners out with their developments, because they've got crazy cartridges coming out, and we're making bullets specifically for them. So it's all stemming from that same launch.
Yeah, and it's really amazing to see the evolution of Nosler from where you started off with a Partition bullet, and that bullet really, I think, changed a lot of manufacturers' perspective on bullet jacket design, particularly having a heavy heel to carry that bullet through the target first and foremost. But second of all, your draw processes where you guys actually end up with more of a tapered jacket to your draw process instead of a uniform straight jacket. And, some of those developments have just been, great. And let's be honest, I mean, it was the heyday of cartridge development at that point in time. It was when RCBS was running full blast and people were making bullets out of 22 casings, and Nosler hit the scene. There was a Weatherby started hitting the scene and really pushing the velocity numbers up, and so you had a lot of the manufacturers all in that same game. But to see that evolution that started with the Partition, moved into the ballistic tip bullet, from there moving on to some of your, your E-tip bullets, some of your long range custom competition bullets, all of that evolution that all started from, engineering that came from somebody that wasn't an engineer.
Oh, that's what I always tell people, and especially like my family. I'll tell my kids, your great grandfather could think in 3-dimensional. It was crazy, and it was without any education. I mean, we got to go back. He had zero formal education, and he just wanted to do it, and he learned and he pushed himself to do it. And my father comes in, and he takes the company from an R&D perspective, like my grandfather had it, to more of a business and understanding market trends and where we needed to go as a brand. And then I come in, and I think between my father and I, we had so much energy. It was let's expand on what my grandfather did, but bring it up to a full scale production. But you're talking extrusion for our jacket making is what you're talking about, and we that was a concept. My grandfather, he had a book, and it was in German, and he figured out how to do it from reading a book that was in German. It's mind blowing to me. What we do today, right? We Google everything, and we figure out, okay, I watch a YouTube video. That's pretty interesting. And I go to a plant tour. He's thinking in 3-dimension reading a German book. I don't know.
You can't halt brilliance, can you?
Yeah, right.
Just how different people's minds work on that. It's just it's pretty cool, and I personally just admire a company like yours that started off with a singular product. Let's do one product, do it exceptionally well, and then let's take what we've learned there and accelerate that further down the road. And then that's obviously brought you into cartridge development and rifle manufacturing now, and really allowing you to be more full service as a manufacturer.
Yeah, it's exciting. We had a sales meeting not long ago, and it was fun listening to all the sales guys and sales ladies throughout the entire world on this call, right? And then they were talking about, we're one of the only companies, if you really look at it, that has it all. Not many people have it all. Remington obviously had it all, but I mean, they kind of get split up, and Winchester they're all split up now, but there's not many. And we're actually trying to, we took a moment, okay, who else does this? Who else has bullets as their core business, and then has case manufacturing, ammunition manufacturing, firearm manufacturing, but they're all in different divisions under the same roof. I mean, it's almost vertically integrated all the way through. It's quite amazing.
It's a very unique model.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. And, particularly in the era as we got into the 90s and the early 2000s, where we saw so many manufacturers getting gobbled up by larger manufacturers and falling underneath, to see that you guys stayed independent that entire time and stayed true to what your mission was. It's impressive.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm very proud of is we are a family business. We are top to bottom family business. And
I love that.
Whether you are a Nosler or not, you're part of our family. And I look at it and I go, okay, I was taught by my father, and I was mentored by my grandfather. My mother works here. My sister works here. I've got 2 brother-in-laws that work here. We are very much family business, and American owned, operated. We're very proud of that. We're very proud of the fact that we make everything here. It's not like we're buying stuff from China and trying to put a Nosler label on it and send it out the door. Very proud of that.
And even more so than that, I mean, you are supplying all those big manufacturers, whether it's Winchester or Federal Ammunition, so helping them on their products to expand your reach as a manufacturer as well. So, you're what do we call that? Co-opetition. There's an awful lot of that going on.
Yeah, a little bit. And on our, not to get too geeked out on business principles, but at our mission statement, we have our number one item on there is partner with our OEMs. Okay. And when we talk about that, original equipment manufacturer, we Intel inside, we're the bullet for these companies, but we want to give them an edge, and so we're trying to differentiate between each brand that we help, and what we're finding is it just elevates our brand even more, and yep. It's exciting. It's a fun time to be in the firearms industry. It's a fun time to be in the ammunition industry. It was rough a couple years ago. A lot of sales were not what they are today. But what bridges companies, I think, during those times is product development. If you have the new products, the cutting edge platform items that you want to introduce, like our 28 Nosler, it bridges you through all that stuff. Yep. And I always have this saying to our team, we got to be relevant or we're going to die. So always be relevant. And it took us a long time. You talked a little bit about long range projectiles. It took us a long time to come to terms with long range, because there's the long range hunting side, there's the long range target side. I'm a guy that likes to get up close and personal when I hunt. But then we started seeing the trend lines on. It isn't so much about that as it is the science behind long range shooting and being a expert at being able to hit a target, that far away. And so we felt it was our moral obligation to come up with a projectile that did open up and did perform at that range. But it took us a couple of years to come to terms with that. It's tough. That's a tough conversation.
Okay, we need to take another break to hear from our supporters again. But when we come back, you talked about industry in general right now, and I'd like to swing around on that a little bit, because there's this ammunition shortage that people talk about. So I'd like to hear about it from your perspective and how you work on it, or at least explain a little bit. So let's hear from our supporters, and then we'll come back and we'll hear a little bit more about what you guys are doing in a bullish market for sure.
For 3 generations and over 75 years, Weatherby has remained dedicated to excellence and innovation in producing quality rifles, shotguns, and ammunition. With 15 cartridges and unmatched ballistic superiority, know that nothing shoots flatter, hits harder, or is more accurate. Carry a Weatherby on your hunt of a lifetime and know you can depend on it to get the job done. At Weatherby, we exist to do one thing: inspire the dreams of hunters and shooters. To learn more, visit weatherby.com.
For the cold, heat, and rough terrain, Zeiss optics are built to meet the wilderness and the elements up close. And mule deer hunters are going to love what they see. Zeiss has redesigned its entire product line and now includes lightweight precision rifle scopes, binoculars, rangefinders, and spotting scopes that the Western hunter demands. The industry-leading V4 scopes feature 14 new reticle options and scope configurations, while the V6 premium rifle scopes with shot FL glass lead the market in optics and repeatability. The Victory RF rangefinding binocular is the ultimate tool for glassing and ranging, while the Gavia 85 is the leader in premium packable lightweight spotting scopes. Zeiss Optics, delivering peak performance in even the most demanding conditions.
All right, we're back. Thanks again, John, for everything you've told us so far about your business and how you guys are innovating in your company. When we wrapped up before the break, I wanted to hear a little bit about what's going on in the industry right now. Your comment about innovation definitely resonated with me. I go to SHOT Show every year and walk around as a freelance outdoor writer and go, okay, what's new? Well, we've got this new slight, Cerakote on this barrel or whatever. I'm like, that's not new. I mean, it's cool. Right. Yeah, that's nice, but that's not new. So innovation is incredible, but you're also challenged with having to come up with the materials to manufacture what we need to do. And you've got people buying everything that's available. I mean, we were in a Sportsman's Warehouse on Cabela's this weekend looking for ammunition, and you can't find it. So tell us from your perspective a little bit about what's driving that, if you can.
Oh,
Jody's
I can.
taking the gloves off now.
Yeah,
we're getting into the deep conversations.
Drop them down. Let's go.
We didn't prep you for this question.
You didn't, but I knew it was coming, and I'm prepared for the hate mail that I'm going to get now. So let's back up. COVID. Okay. And what was happening is we were coming off what the industry was calling the Trump slump. There was no real pressure to manufacture high volumes of anything because the market was we were satisfied. The market was satisfied with the amount that was in inventory. So we're working on new product development during that time, like I was mentioning earlier. COVID hits and businesses start shutting down, and you can almost pinpoint it to the middle of March. And it was right when the governors started saying, okay, our state will shut down, our state will shut down. Well, luckily the firearms industry was deemed essential, and we're very fortunate enough to have good representation in Washington, D.C. that allowed this to happen. Because whether we want to admit it or not, we have government contracts, you have FBI, Homeland Security, local police departments, et cetera. So we still had to provide them product, even if people were shut down. Well, as that started rolling, you saw a big spike in demand. And about that time, Remington goes out of business. And Remington's one of the largest manufacturers in the world. And not only just ammo, but primers.
Right.
And so you take them off from out of the pie of the suppliers. That was great at the beginning because it allowed everybody to get new market share.
Correct.
Well, think of toilet paper. Toilet paper was short, right? People got freaked out about toilet paper. And so they bought every bit of toilet paper they could buy. That happened in ammunition as well. Then you started seeing the civil unrest start to happen in the summertime. And that became something we were not prepared for as an industry. So we have states that are shut down that have supply chain, right? So we're buying materials from other states, bringing them in. Well, they weren't deemed essential, so they're not operating. So they're trying to get us parts in a minimal capacity, really, very hit or miss. We've got the civil unrest starting to happen. Well, then we get whatever, it's like close to 10 million, I'm just going to round up, 10 million new gun owners because civil unrest caused panic and fear. So you have this on top of, let's estimate 40 to 50 million consumers anyway. And now you just added another 10 million to it.
Right. And then,
without Remington.
Remington was what? Probably conservatively 15 to 20% of the overall market right there.
Probably,
and when you talk about primers, there's really limited capacity. There's only a couple manufacturers that that manufacture primers, and they have to be shipped to all the companies that are making their own loaded ammo. So that supply chain issue had to been
it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And then, which comes to another good point that people kind of overlook. So if you look at the outdoor industry in general, not just hunting and shooting, bicycle sales, golf, all that stuff spiked, right? Because people weren't working. They're camping. You can't even find a camper now. And so you go out and people are doing more outdoor activities. You added about, 1 million new license numbers versus the prior year. Yeah, they might have hunted before, but they're hunting again. So you put all this into perspective. Everything got sucked up, every bit of ammunition there is. And then you have the people that are the preppers and hoarding. I get that.
A pellet is not enough ammunition. Come on.
It's not. Yeah. It's always about need versus want, and there's a big difference. And this is all just kind of just snowballing and making it a worse problem. Kind of fast forward on that. Remington's back up now, which is really good. Vista ended up purchasing them, which is exciting because that's a well-run organization. And I think they can get Remington back to kind of some glory days, which is good for our industry. But you're still adding new gun owners on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
And we still have supply chain issues. And it's not because there's some giant conspiracy. And this is where people want to fight me on this. They think that we're selling all of our stuff to the government.
What? You don't have black helicopters loading up pallets of ammunition out of the back door of the factory every night? What?
We
what?
are not.
My bubble is burst.
Yeah, I know. I've got into some heated arguments with people on this, and I just want to tell it. There's nothing. I'm not hiding anything. It's not like we're shipping this stuff to the government because we want to keep it away from the consumer's hands. I believe in the Second Amendment more than 99.999% of everybody, and I want people to have that. It's a bad problem. It's getting better. It is getting better. We're breaking production records, and I know my competitors are doing the same thing. But it frustrates you. Like you said, you go to a sportsman's warehouse, or you go to a academy or something. You're trying to buy ammo, Cabela's, and there's nothing there. Well, part of this problem goes to this allocation. They're going to hold stuff back because they have guns to sell, and they can't sell guns without ammo. And as a manufacturer, I'm trying to make sure everybody gets something. And so we're trying to divvy up our production on a daily basis to everybody. And so, and I'm just going to just use round examples here. If I make 100 boxes of this and if I ship it to one person, they control the market. Guess what happens? Prices skyrocket.
Absolutely.
Because supply and demand. So we're trying to divvy it up and make sure everybody has something. Mom and pop shops, they're the heart of this industry.
Yes.
And if they don't have ammo to sell,
they're going to go out of business.
They are going to go out of business. They have bills to pay. They have rent. They have overhead. They have to do that.
It's a lot harder for them to weather that than it is sometimes some of these bigger stores, for sure.
Absolutely. And so, we're doing our very, very best there, and we're allocating the very best we can. Now we got other problems. Now you've got raw materials are at an all-time high. It is ridiculous what copper prices are now.
Well, everything. I mean, we're seeing commodity prices go through the roof. I mean, look at the price of lumber right now. Fuel prices are going through the roof. All those things affect the supply chain. And I have to imagine, unfortunately, and it's the last thing you want to do as a manufacturer, but, pricing has to reflect that at some point, that you're not going to take a loss on selling a product just to get it into consumers' hands either, because you have jobs, you have people, you have employees that need to be paid, you have health benefits that need to be paid, all those things. So somewhere in that matrix, that price structure has to increase, which particularly in a shortage is extremely unpalatable, but it is, this is Econ 101, right?
Yeah, it's reality. Absolutely. I'm going to bring you to the trade shows with me, by the way. You're going to be my spokesman out front. You understand it. This is exactly what it is. And, it's sad. It is sad to see retail pricing up about 150%. I mean, it is, but I get it. I mean, what would you do in that position? And so, but it's sad because they feel like it's the manufacturers taking advantage of everybody. Everybody had to raise prices. Yeah. Everybody had, if you go through the entire supply chain, they have to. Inflation is here, whether we want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's, to go back to your original question, I'm sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there, but your original question, supply and demand, supply is getting better, but demand is still outpacing it.
All right. We need to take another break, our last one for today. But when we come back, I actually want to transition, not that this wasn't fun, but to the real fun about mule deer hunting. You're in Bend, Oregon, Eastern Oregon. I want to hear a little bit about your history with I see in our little Zoom meeting here, we've got a picture of you with a beautiful mule deer buck behind you. So let's hear about that, and also a little bit about the ammunition that you guys use and recommend for mule deer hunters, and give some advice to our listeners. So we're going to take a minute to hear from our supporters, and we'll be right back.
I'm Anthony Imperato, president of Henry Repeating Arms. Patriotic Americans are looking to protect and provide for their families, now more than ever. Henry has over 200 rifles and shotguns to choose from, made in America or not made at all, and backed by a lifetime guarantee. Go to henryusa.com and order our free catalog, decals, and a list of dealers in your area. That's henryusa.com. Thank you, and God bless America.
The best hunting stories begin long before the harvest. They begin with the hard work of conservation groups like the Mule Deer Foundation, working tirelessly to protect our hunting traditions. As a proud partner of MDF, Vortex Optics is dedicated to improving your experience in the field by offering you rugged, Innovative optics and apparel backed by our VIP warranty. Our unlimited lifetime promise to take care of you whenever you need us. Together, let's ensure mule deer always have a place to roam. The best hunting stories are yet to be told. Learn more at vortexoptics.com.
Alrighty, we are back, and it's been really, really interesting to hear a little bit more about the insider industry perspective that you guys bring and your company. Let's transition to a little bit of fun. Did you get out mule deer hunting this year?
So this last year was a little bit rough. Oregon was on fire for most of
tough fire year for sure.
So our hunting areas really got limited, and really the game, it moved.
It's tough on them.
Displaced, it's going to happen.
And it's really interesting. This year we've seen a lot of late fawns, and I wonder how much the rut changed because of everything that had happened. I don't know, but I'm fortunate enough to grow up here. You can say what you want about Oregon, but we do have really good hunting, and we're very fortunate. And I got to grow up mule deer hunting. That's our staple. That's what we do. And I know a lot of the country's whitetail. I get so excited about a big mule deer. I get excited about any mule deer, really. It doesn't have to be a big one. I'm trying to teach my kids how to do, mule deer hunting. My son just passed his hunter's education. He's 11. He's 11. Awesome. So he did the field day, and I was so proud of him. He
I bet.
Studied hard for that. And then my oldest daughter is, she's about 2 more years before we can get her really into it, but she wants to go with dad. So that's exciting. Mule deer hunting for us, it's special. It holds a very, very special place in our heart. And it's frustrating to see that people don't understand how fragile a species they are when it comes to habitat and also conservation. It frustrates me that in Oregon we have more cougars than we know what to do with. And that with the loss of habitat in terms of expansion, everybody's moving to Oregon, right? So Bend is just blowing up in terms of size, and it's just eating up that habitat.
Absolutely.
So I really applaud what Mule Deer Foundation's doing because they're the only ones that are 100% dedicated to this, and they're just an awesome species. I love hunting them. I love watching them. I love just seeing their habits in general. We had a buck here at the factory for years. They called him Buck Norris. They called him the Nosler buck.
Oh yes, we've all seen photos of Buck Norris running around. Iconic.
Oh, it was incredible. I came out of my office one night and he was literally bedded next to my truck.
Oh,
and I said, what's the irony of this?
Right.
But he was such a smart deer because he figured out where he could be and be totally left alone.
Yep.
And they're just like I said, I just really admire mule deer in general.
Yeah. We've got Mule Deer Foundation has got 2 stewardship projects there in Oregon. One is associated with the Fort Rock, Jack Creek watershed in the Fremont-Winema National Forest. And the other is up in the Oatman Mule Deer Migration Corridor. And they're partly, one of our biggest priorities is either post-fire restoration. That's something that we do in a lot of areas. After a fire, we'll go back in and manage cheatgrass, Medusa head, the invasive species, but also replant sagebrush, improve other things. Fire's not always bad. So in some ways, if you can restore the habitat in the areas if it didn't burn too hot. The other part of that is managing some timber, to thin over dense stands of forest to improve aspen restoration. So there's a couple of projects that we put in some money for $10,000, $15,000, but it's matched by the U.S. Forest Service and others up to $100,000, $175,000. So those are the types of things that make a difference, particularly in fire years. It's either going to help prevent or reduce. I did some work on fire for some other groups, and there was a fire in the Deschutes National Forest where they did a timber salvage operation, a restoration, thinned on one side of the thing, and they had a fire there this year, and the one side of the road up to where they did that restoration was sticks. it was, a complete wasteland. You get to the road and the other side is where they did the restoration, and the crown fire dropped down to the ground and just burned low vegetation. And all those trees are, they're burnt, but they're meant to have a fire replacement. And so this stuff works. It makes a difference, and it helps our animals, because when you have sticks, nothing comes back for a while.
Absolutely. And it was interesting to see Oregon actually participate in that, because they get a little weird about
it can be a challenge in certain places.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
But to answer your question, this fall, I'm waiting to see my tag results, but I'm super anxious to take my son out one-on-one. Awesome. mule deer hunting, and I think I put in, because they have a pretty good youth program here in Oregon with mentorship, and he gets to get basically mentor points, and by the time he's of a good solid hunting age, he can actually draw a pretty good tag here. So they've figured out some things here.
That's a neat idea. So he's putting in, and so he can still get a youth tag, but he's getting mentored points as well. So he's accumulating points for better units for when he's little. That's a really neat program.
Yeah.
Like, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she is she's a pretty proficient, but we actually haven't gotten a mule deer tag for her. We haven't been able to get a mule deer tag for her. She's now got, I think she's got 5 points, and I think we've planned that next year she and I both have the same number of points we're going to finally put in for a mule deer tag on the West Slope. But it is the coolest thing to go out with your kid and to share that experience with them. And
I'm telling you, what I've done so far with my kids, I got more joy, and I think I had bigger buck fever watching them than me behind the trigger. So
I think my husband could. He's the expert on it, because I'm a relatively new big game hunter. I've been bird hunting forever, but been relatively so I'm learning too. Our daughter's learning, and he could probably give a master class on how not to lose his temper, because he's lost his temper so much. And he realizes afterwards, part of that is because he's so excited, and he has to step himself back and remember what he has, how much knowledge he has in his head that he hasn't fully communicated out, and something that happens that we're just not prepared to handle and to deal, because it's just completely new to us. So it is an amazing process to mentor, and to watch your kid get their first animals or get out there and just have fun and learn the process is just amazing.
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I'm still putting in every state, and I'm trying to get trying to get daddy's tags, but
exactly. We need them too. All right, guys. Well, we have already taken up a big chunk of your time, but before we go, I always like to ask, is there anything else that you haven't been able to talk about, either about your business or about your experience or your support of the Mule Deer Foundation? Anything that you wanted to bring up?
I'm very proud of our support of Mule Deer this year. We stepped it up as a company,
and it's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, we felt that was the right, again, moral thing to do. So we're excited to partner there for sure. And hopefully this is one of those, I always do things in a long-term atmosphere. I don't ever do it like one and done. I think if we're going to do something, let's be in this long-term together and work towards solutions and projects that you've already named a couple that are great. You quickly mentioned about ammunition. For deer, it is important to choose the right ammunition. And this isn't just a plug on the company, but we always say it's the cheapest insurance policy you have. Make sure you have good working ammunition that works out of your firearm that you feel confident with. And if you go out and you just buy some box because you can buy it and you don't really sight in your gun, you're putting your hunt and your experience, I think, at risk. So
and the animal. I mean, you want to.
Yeah.
What's your tagline? Mic drop, buck drop. I like that advertising that you guys do in that one, and it's the truth. You want that animal to go down. You want him to drop.
You do. You do. And then we make premium products for that, and whether it's a ballistic tip or an AccuBond or Partition. Partition's been around for 75 years. It's still the one that everything's measured against, and do everybody in the animal a service, and doesn't mean you can't hit them anywhere and it's not going to work. You still got to make proper shot placement, but take the time to practice. I know it's tough in a shortage ammo environment, but if you can buy your hunting ammunition now, you need to do it. If you find it, you need to do it.
And, I'm also going to give you guys a big plug as a hand loader on my side. Your customer service has been exceptional. I grew up hunting whitetails in the Midwest, and I found, in the early 2000s, a neat little cutout in the state of Minnesota that I could shoot an AR-15 pistol in a pistol zone to deer hunt. And, AR-15 bullets, 300 blackout bullets aren't exactly necessarily designed for game taking. But I spent a lot of time chatting with your ballistics techs over there, talking about, hey, what's the velocity threshold that I need to hit to make sure, and what's my functional range. And, my wife and I settled the 125 grain Nosler ballistic tip over H110 or N110 in my 300 blackout pistols. And we've taken quite a few deer with that combo. And, I'll be honest, we tried the TSX from Barnes. We tried the Spear TNT to see if it would work. And, we definitely had marginal results compared to using that ballistic tip bullet. But I probably wouldn't have ended up there if I didn't take the time to pick up the phone, chat with your techs over there, explain what my unique situation is. So, I definitely recommend that for, folks that are listening. If you're not sure what you need, pick up the phone and call and explain your situation, how you're hunting, because, if you're a short range shooter but wanting to be able to take shots out the, 500 yards, you want to make sure that bullet you're using is suitable for that goal. And without educating yourself, you're not doing the animal a service.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the things we've focused heavily on the last few years, making sure we have enough customer service support. I know a lot of companies, that's one of the things people cut. And we said, oh my gosh, we're in a technical world. We need to make sure people can call and actually talk to somebody, not just an email chat,
Yeah.
So
excellent.
That's good to hear. I'll pass that along to the group.
Excellent.
Yeah, they were super helpful. I was blown away with how much time that they spent helping to walk me through that and find a solution for my unique problem. So kudos.
Well, John, thank you so much for taking your time today. I know you've got a very busy schedule, making a lot of ammunition.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the Dunkin' Donuts guy. I got to go make the ammo now.
Time to make the donuts. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for supporting the Mule Deer Foundation. We really appreciate you and your company and all the people that are there. Thanks for the time. JJ, kudos on your first, podcast co-host there.
Yeah, and if nothing else, it sounds like I might have a second job path working for Nosler over there doing PR again. So
absolutely, anytime. Excellent. But hey, thank you for what you do. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks for talking Mule Deer with Steve Belinda and Jodi Stemler. The Mule Deer Foundation is the only conservation group in North America dedicated to restoring, improving, and protecting mule deer and black-tailed deer and their habitat. MDF is a strong voice for hunters in access, wildlife management, and conservation policy issues. To find out more, visit www.muledeer.org and stay tuned for the next episode of Talking Mule Deer.